Hello, everybody. My name is Nate Groot-Nibelink. Welcome into the Apples and Genos Fantasy Hockey Podcast. I'm the creator of Apples and Genos, originator of the Zero-G draft strategy. In this podcast, Blake and I are going to talk about the biggest hot shots and have-nots of the last couple of weeks. Let's hit it. Now, of course, I have your friend and my best friend, Blake Creamer, here with me. Blake, how are we feeling tonight?
Of course you do, buddy. I'm always here for you. You changed up the intro there a little bit. Damn, I got rattled. I didn't know what was happening. Nate's he's a wild card. All right, you don't know what you're going to get out of this man from night to night. So, yeah, but I appreciate you, buddy. I'm doing well. We were talking a little bit offline here, but to me, it's kind of the doldrums of fantasy hockey right now. I'm saturated. I'm saturated with fantasy hockey. It's my own damn fault. I'm in 9 leagues, and something's got to give. But yeah, it's been good. I'm on the losing end of some matchups here this week, so that never feels good. But you got to just keep going till the wheels fall off. Am I right, Nate?
Absolutely. We won't let those wheels fall off.
Thank you, buddy.
No matter how badly Brad Marchand tries to end my week on the last night of the... What a rat, Brad Marchand.
Rat. Yeah, totally.
It is known. Well, aside from Brad Marchand, we should touch on some other newsies. So we can flip over to that right about now. Cale Makar out for tonight. Apparently, Jared Bednar didn't know anything beyond that. I find that a little bit hard to believe, but I guess we'll have to wait for a further update. In his absence in this game that's ongoing as we're recording here, Devon Toews was up on the top power play, so make note of that. I was hoping that it'd be my guy, Bowen Byram, and I could parlay that into some success for my preseason takes on Bowen Byram, but no such luck.
Hey, he got you 2 goals there, Nate. What more do you want out of this? All right, beautiful game for Bowen Byram.
He did have a big game the other night. Maybe he starts to turn things around from here on out. Would love to see that. Of course, he's second in time on ice to Toews in this game here tonight. Yeah, actually, with Makar out, with Gerard out, the Avs blue line not looking quite so hot as it usually does. So, yeah, hopefully, obviously, we all hope that it's a quick turnaround for Cale Makar to get back in, but we will have to see in the upcoming days. Another one we'll have to see in the upcoming days is Mason McTavish, who left the game Saturday night with an upper body injury. Again, not much to go on here. He is considered day-to-day officially, but no real updates as of today. Jared Spurgeon took an awkward hit to the knee or leg. It was kind of hard to see exactly what happened there. Kind of was a little bit of an accidental knee on knee as the hit came in along the boards, and then his leg went backwards into the boards and slammed pretty awkwardly. Apparently wasn't putting any weight on it going down the tunnel. In his absence, your guess is as good as mine. Who's going to take that power play? In this particular game, Goligoski came out with the top unit for the first one, and then Spurgeon took over on the top unit later, and then it was Brock Faber with the second unit the entire game. So, I mean, Jonas Brodin has been up there in times past. Like, I literally have no idea who's going to be on the top power play. So definitely something worth watching, though. Whoever's going to be on that top power play, I am interested in. The Wild have looked pretty good. You know, new coach bump, that new coach smell really working for them there in Minnesota as of now. Do you have any favorites of this group? Would you be interested in picking up any of these guys if they do get power play 1, if Spurgeon does miss some time?
I kind of want to see him go with the lightsaber Brock Faber. He's a rookie. I mean, that would be interesting for them to do that. But yeah, none of these guys are really moving the needle, are they? It's just, and even with Spurgeon there, Spurgeon wasn't even very exciting. So it's just like, I don't know. I would be surprised if they went back to the 5-forward thing. So I don't know. We'll see. I mean, if they put Goligoski there, okay. But I'd like to see him give Brock Faber a chance, just see what he can do for a game, even half a game. Just get him out there, with the big boys, and maybe we can get something cooking here. But they're winning, right? 3 wins under new coach Mr. Hines. All right,
Mr.
the ketchup warlord of North America. Yeah, so think things are going good, but yeah, give Faber a chance. Come on.
Jay Hines.
J.
Jack,
Hines.
John. It's
Jack
unknowable,
Johnson.
really, what his first name is, but definitely we're settled on on the last name there and his association with ketchup. All right. Speaking of power plays, Chris Letang back on power play one in Pittsburgh there. So that'll be interesting. I would assume that it's Brian Rust coming off the top unit. You would have to think Crosby, Malkin, Gensler, all locks, and obviously Eric Carlson still there. So I believe it's Rust off to the top unit there, but Letang back on. And honestly, yeah, I'm excited. I've got Letang in a couple spots. Thought the world of him. Still think he's been fine, quite honestly, in for what his role has been. It's just been he like any other defenseman needs top power play to really take off for fantasy purposes. So hopefully he crushes in the first game and they ride with it for the rest of the season, and I get to ride that in all my fantasy leagues. Last note here, Aiden Hill will miss the game on Saturday. He's currently listed as day-to-day. We'll check in again Monday. It doesn't sound like it's anything too severe, but obviously Logan Thompson would get a pretty significant bump playing for a good team if Aiden Hill were to miss anything more than a game or two here. All right, Blake, are you ready for this? Let's get into the hot shots.
I'm stoked. Let's do it.
All right. First one has to be Matthew Barzal. Now, I have an issue with Matthew Barzal, and that's that he doesn't spell his name with two T's. Like, that's just so awkward and wrong on so many levels. But regardless of that, he's still putting up points. He's got 8 points across his last 4 games, just under 19 minutes average time on ice. Underlying metrics are not great. 115th in shots per 60, 176th in individual scoring chances, 4 per 60, 182 in Corsi 4 per 60, 165 in scoring chances, 4 per 60. On the season, his numbers have actually been significantly better. He's been shooting a lot more, 52nd on the season in shots per 60. So kind of his success has gone the opposite direction of his underlying metrics the last little bit, just a little bit of evening out. On the season, 77% IPP, not uncommon for a guy like Barzal, 9.7% shooting percentage, 10.9% on ice shooting percentage, and he's on an 86-point pace. Kind of believe in it a little bit here with Barzal for that 86-point pace on the season. How are you feeling, Blake?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a big fan of Barzal. Just watching him. First off, like he's a very dynamic player and he drives a lot of offense. Again, he's a player that creates chances and scores off the rush, which I think kind of usually all the best players in the league. That's sort of their profile, and he profiles that way. But we got to keep in mind too, 7 of these points came in 2 games. Bang! I mean, that's pretty nice. You know, those are great games, but that's what he's done in the last 5 is not exactly, what he's doing moving forward, I don't think. But I'm a fan of the player. I think he's clearly the best offensive player there. Obviously, he's running hot in pretty much every metric here, besides the shots and goal, of course, before all those. But like IPP, shooting percentage, on ice shooting percentage are all crazy high for the last 5 games. So those are going to come down. But I like the player. I like the deployment. And they're giving him ice time as well. I think that's really important. So, I mean, what is he at right now? Yeah, he's cooking up. Oh, no, this isn't a career high. But he's 1905, which is more than enough for Barzal to do what he needs to do. Point per game player, absolutely. But yeah, get another T in that name, my man. I mean, at the beginning, it's your parents' fault, right? It's your parents' fault, all right? But now he's an adult now, all right? He has agency over his own life. You go wherever you need to go, and you make the change, all right? Barzal, come on, what do you do?
Definitely. All right, Zach Hyman is next up. Also has 8 points in his last 4 games, and going back, actually, he's got 3 or more shots in 9 of his last 10 games. Absolutely crushing at the moment. Over 19 minutes average time on ice, 2nd in shots per 60, 4th in individual scoring chances, 4 per 60. On ice numbers, just about as good. 22nd in Corsi, 4 per 60, 32nd in scoring chances, 4 per 60. On the season, pacing for 47 goals, 90 points. Obviously, pretty good stuff there. 53% IPP on the season, which is really strong. 16.9% shooting percentage, 14.7% on ice shooting percentage. Those feel a little bit hot for a guy like Zach Hyman, but in the end, point per game, Zach Hyman feel about okay?
Absolutely. And even more than that, I think this sort of proves that last season wasn't a fluke. right? Like he popped for 83 points in 79 games last season. And I didn't feel like it was a fluke last season, but obviously Edmonton was just going ballistic, especially on the power play, right? Where Hyman didn't really pop the way that the other power play one performers did, right? He only got 26 points, including 15 goals on the power play last year. But I mean, this year, damn. First off, I love these metrics in the last 5 games for sure. But then on the season, very reasonable stuff. Like you said, like, he's top 50 in shots and goal per 60, and he's 13th overall in the entire league in individual scoring chances for per 60 after 21 games. That's great. So, and I do feel like I'm one of these guys holding out for Edmonton to kind of really pull it together and get themselves back into, at least a chance at a playoff spot, right? They only need a chance. They only need to get in there. I mean, we know what their top players can do, but I'm very into Zach Hyman. He does other things too, like 77 hits last year, 74 the year before. Like he hits, he's on the power play. He's playing in the top 6 in Edmonton. You got to love this guy. And he's cooking right now.
For sure.
Big
Moving
Zed.
along, Pavel Buchnevich, 7 points in his last 5 games, 2 goals, averaging over 20 minutes a night. Underlying stats are kind of interesting here. 266th in shots per 60, 184th in individual scoring chances 4 per 60, 143rd in Corsi 4 per 60, but moves all the way up to 41st in on ice scoring chances 4 per 60. Make of that what you will, I guess. Now all the way up to a 31 goal, 70 point pace on the season. 64% IPP, 16% shooting percentage, 11.9% on ice shooting percentage for the season. Again, I feel like it's a bit of a refrain here with these first few names, but I feel like that's about where I'm expecting Buchnevich to kind of fill out the rest of the season at.
Yeah. In a lot of these cases, some of these guys started out a little colder, right? And now they're having a hot streak and it's kind of balancing everything out, right? But yeah, Buchnevich, one of those guys, I've talked about him a little bit. We both have, where he really lives on high efficiency, right? He's a crazy high efficient player, not really a volume shooter. So that's not something that I love, but he just gets it done, right? And St. Louis in general, that's kind of their MO, right? They're high efficiency. Guys like Rob Thomas don't shoot, still get goals. So, but he's cooking right now. 70-point pace. I think that has a lot of room to grow here. He's shooting 16% on the season, which is kind of in line with where he normally shoots. So, yeah, I get a lot of questions actually, like Buchnevich or Kyrou. Like, who are you taking? And in that case, what are you doing there, Nate? Buchnevich or Kyrou?
Really depends on the format there. If it's Bangers Cats, then Kyrou is a net negative in Bangers Cats
hit
almost.
in 82 games. Thank you for your
exactly. In a more conventional, like a couple style points setup, then it's a lot closer. I think I'm going Buchnevich at this point. We've seen Kyrou get bumped down to second power play a lot more often, second line as well. And so I think Buchnevich is probably safer. I think Kyrou probably still has more upside. Underlying metrics are much better with Jordan Kyrou, but it just seems like Kyrou has always been a little bit of the second fiddle or the third of their top 3 players there. So I think I would have to lean Buchnevich at this point. Is that what you would do as well?
Yeah, you have to, I think. But it doesn't feel good, right? Because
No.
exactly the type of stuff we talk about here on the podcast is like, this guy he ain't it. You know what I mean? It's like very little shots, crazy efficiency, but he's done it for seasons in a row, right? That's kind of what he does, right? Whereas Kyrou, the ceiling is much higher, but he's getting crap deployments. So damn it. What is it with these NHL coaches that it's like they listen to our podcast and they're like, oh, you like that player? He shoots a lot. Well, I don't like it. I don't like a player that shoots. So get him on the third line and second power play. Like, no. But Buchnevich, very good player. He gets big minutes because he gets some shorthanded time too. He's already got 3 shorthanded points on the season. So that's a nice little piece with Buchnevich and Robert Thomas too. They get that shorthanded time. So anyways, great player. I think he's probably good for point per game too.
Right, let's move it along. Let's talk about Alex Kerfoot, who's up to 7 points in his last 5 games, 1 goal amongst those 7 points, but over 19 minutes a night here in the last 5 games. So that's worth noting. Underlying metrics, not great. 217th in shots per 60, 325th in individual scoring chances, 4 per 60, and about that in Corsi, 4 per 60, and scoring chances, 4 per 60 as well. I am completely uninterested in Kerfoot. I'm aware he's on the top top power play at the moment. He's currently on a line with Jason Zucker and Michael Carconi. Is he Italian? I don't know. But I am completely uninterested in Alex Kerfoot. I had the pleasure or displeasure, take it how you will, of watching Alex Kerfoot in Toronto for a few years here. And at some points he would get on a top line and he would knock in a couple points. You'd be like, oh yeah, Kerfoot, like he looks fast and he gets to that area, but yeah, he's never been that guy for me. Right now he's on pace on the season for 7 goals, 43 points. Honestly, like if he hit 43 points this season, I'd be surprised. So I'm totally out on Kerfoot. I'm not in with this latest hot streak. Your thoughts, Blake?
Oh, dang. You know what? I'm in on anybody who gets to play with the Italian stallion, Michael Carconi. All right, give me that gabagool and give it to me now. All right, this line right here, Jason Zucker, Michael Carconi, and Alex Kerfoot. That's, I say beef dip a lot, so I don't want to say beef dip. I mean, let's say that's like a turducken, all right? Straight up. Like you got meat on top of other meat on top of other meat, all right? It's not beef, but, it's still meat, right? So I don't know. You getting where I'm going with this, Nate? All right, that's fine.
Not at all, but
Thanks.
continue.
Yeah, and that's fair. But yeah, Alex Kerfoot, it's a great streamer, right? You're streaming in a Coyote, sure. Like Carconi is almost more interesting. Like, what the hell is that man doing? He's got 5 goals in his last 5 games. I think I plugged him into our sheet here. Like, he's shooting 71.4% over the last 5 games.
That seems pretty good.
Is that sustainable, Nate? I don't know. Yeah, but I'll tell you what, he's got the power of nitrites inside, all that salami, all that gabagool. You know what I'm talking about. Anybody watch The Sopranos? Gabagool. All right, delicious cured meat. Let's carry on. But yeah, I think it's an interesting streamer. But yeah, what are you doing, Alex Kerfoot? No, he's actually shooting too. I was just looking at this, like in the last 5, he's shooting like 10%, 1 goal, like 10 shots. No, this guy's terrible.
Yeah.
No, get him off. Get him on my site.
For sure. We have a Jason Robertson sighting. One of the early refrains of this season has been people asking me how worried they should be about Jason Robertson. He's got 3 goals, 7 points in his last 5, still averaging just 17 minutes a night, which is not super exciting. Underlying metrics, not great. 180th in shots per 60, 239th in individual scoring chances, 4 per 60, 92nd in Corsi, 4 per 60, 190th in scoring chances, 4 per 60. Now up to a 30-goal, 82-point pace. Thoughts on Jason Robertson so far this season, Blake?
Yeah, it's been a minor concern, but I'm still in the camp that Robertson is gonna bounce back to maybe not the previous level, right? We're not maybe not 104 point or 109 point Jason Robinson, but I think 90 point Jason Robinson. We should still be there, right? But obviously he's going to have to get some more deployment here. That's been a concern. If you look at his ice time here, we also got to throw in a 13 minute, 38-second game that he just played, but he got 2 goals there. They wiped Tampa Bay 8-1. So they didn't need AR out there. So that's why his ice time was so low in that game. But yeah, it is a concern for sure. I think one of the things that I'm noticing with Dallas now is that second line, that Matt Duchene, Mason Marchment, Tyler Seguin, they're really good. Like they're not just converting, like they're actually dominating play, like they're Corsi for, versus Corsi against and stuff. Like they're one of the better 5-on-5 teams right now, which is so bizarre. Duchene? Oh God, it was Duchene. But so I think they're just eating into the top lines minutes because they're playing so well at 5-on-5, I think. So I just don't see it lasting all season though, right? We're a quarter into the season. Jason Robertson's at a point per game. I think that's okay, right? But I'm surprised that the shots have gone down as much as they have, because last season, I mean, we had full episodes where we're just talking about Jason Robertson, right? This guy's unbelievable. He's killing it every metric that we care about. And that has not even been, he hasn't had a sniff at that this season, right? Even just simply like his shots per game last season, 3.8 per game, which is great. This season, 2.5. That's massive. That is a really massive drop. Shooting percentage is the same. He's still cooking on the power play, getting those big minutes there. But yeah, I'm mildly concerned. But as you know, I picked up Jason Robertson in 2 leagues on trades, right? Buy low trades, in my opinion. And I'm happy. I'm very happy to get Jason Robertson for what I was able to give up for him. So I'm a believer that he's going to get back. But I don't know. Where are you at with Jason Robertson, Nate?
Yeah, I do still believe in the talent for sure. What he did last year was not a fluke, in my opinion. I'm more concerned realistically about the deployment. Like, he wasn't even on the top power play in this last game. He was on the
Yeah.
Sagan, Marchment, Johnston power play. That unit actually ended up playing more than the Pavelski, Ben, Duchesne, Hintz unit. Just the way it worked out, I guess. But yeah, that part doesn't look great to me. That's concerning. That's all I could say. That he may not be the absolute line one, power play one lock all season long, and 18 plus is a guarantee for every single game. And if he doesn't get that 18 plus minutes, then it just lowers the expectation for me a little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think point per game, I feel pretty confident in still. 90 points, I feel like, is definitely within reach. But if this continues, 100 points is pretty much out of the question in my mind, and that's definitely not something I would have said at the beginning of the year. So that's where I'm at with Jason Robertson. Just tempering some expectations.
Yep.
Like, the upside is still there, in my opinion. Like I said, I don't think the talent went away. I think last year was real, and the metrics showed that. But yeah, I am concerned basically that he won't live up to the metrics as much as he did last year. All right, moving right along, we've got some defensemen to talk through here. First up, Noah Dobson, who has 6 assists in his last 5 games, skating over 27 and a half minutes per night is Noah Dobson in
Love it.
this last stretch. Up to, what is it, 21 points on the season. That's 18 goal, 75-point pace for Noah Dobson. And you know what? I don't disbelieve it all that much. 53% IPP, 9.1% shooting percentage, 12.6% on ice shooting percentage. Yeah, those are high ish, but they're not outlandish. We've seen defensemen hit these numbers for a full season before. Dobson could be that guy this year, and he's getting tremendous deployment to be able to get up to these numbers as well. The underlying metrics the last little bit have taken a little bit of a dip. 109th in shots per 60. Usually he's pumping shots like nobody's business. 145th in on ice Corsi 4 per 60 and 113th in scoring chances 4 per 60 has also taken a dip here of late. The Islanders, like, despite Barzal and Dobson here being on this hot list, the Islanders of late have not been great. Last couple weeks, they are far and away the worst defensive team by the metrics that I'm looking at even strength. So take that for what it's worth. Obviously, it doesn't hurt Dobson or Barzal's offensive production for us here in fantasy too much, but yeah, there could be some changes to how the Islanders do things if they continue to have these problems. What's your take on Dobson? I give you the over under at 70 points. Are you taking the over on that?
Ooh, oh my goodness. Dang, 70 Noah Dobson. I'm trying to remember what I projected him for. I think it was like 65 or something like that. So I think I'm still taking the under on Dobson, but he's getting more deployment than I thought he was going to get. And that is really what's going to carry this value. Like, he can have these little streaks of 5 games where his metrics aren't kind of living up to what he's done so far this season, right? One thing we like about Noah Dobson is his ability to get shots from the back end, Corsi 4, right? Shots towards the net. That's great stuff. And he's a quarterback on the power play there in New York, and they're actually 9th overall in efficiency, right? They got the 9th best shooting percentage on the power play, so that's excellent. There's a lot to like about this player, but the best thing to me is I don't really think anything that he's doing is super unsustainable. It might come down a little bit, just a little bit from those numbers, but the deployment is going to keep it where he's still producing at the level that we need. So yeah, this is a guy I'm very excited about. I'll probably take the under, but I think he could come close.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'd put him in the 65-point range rest of season, and wouldn't be surprised if he ends up somewhere in between 65 and 70 when all is said and done.
Book it.
All right. Coming a little closer to home for you here, Blake. Philip Hronek has a goal and 6 points in his last 5 games, averaging over 25 minutes a night, averaging, 24 and a half on the season. So that's been pretty consistent. 46th in shots per 60, 35th in individual scoring chances, 4 per 60, 31st in Corsi, 4 per 60, 43rd in scoring chances, 4 per 60. Talk to me about Hronek. He is currently on a 7 goal but 82-point pace. Uh, I don't think either of us are gonna believe in that kind of production for the rest of the season for Philip Hronek. But what do you see as a reasonable point pace for the rest of the season for Hronek?
Yeah, this is interesting because I didn't see this as a reasonable point pace for Hronik at all. It doesn't make sense to me. So for rest of the season, I think we could probably look at a 60-point player here if everything keeps going really well. But I think it's probably going to be in between 50 and 60 points for Hronik. But something that he does really well that's underrated is he's really playing with Quinn Hughes well, right? Like they're good. That's a good pair, right? They complement each other. They're both offensive and they can both make really good first passes. Like Hronik does a lot of little things right, whereas Quinn Hughes is really kind of flashy. Hronik is less flashy, right? He's just making really smart plays, getting the puck in when he needs to, like beautiful passing, and he's decent defensively. So he's a great player, and the ice time is again just a nice surprise, right? He's averaging over 25 minutes in the last 5 games, just under 25 on the season. That's awesome. But an 82-point pace, damn, no. I mean, he has access to a bunch of freaking units on the Canucks that obviously we know that the Canucks are converting at a ridiculous rate. They're not really shooting that much, but they're converting at a really high rate. So he's a benefactor of that. So I don't think that on ice shooting percentage in the last 5, 18.3. What is it on the season?
14.7.
Yeah, 14.7. So still high, right? Like,
yeah,
that's going to go down. So some of those assists are going to go away. And he started out hot in Detroit last year as well, and he had power play 1. Like, he has some acumen here. I just don't see 82 points. I think we're looking at a 50 to 60 point defenseman, with reasonable periffs, and he's just a really good player in real life too.
Yeah. Yeah, I tend to agree. Obviously, the on-ice shooting percentage is going to come down significantly from here. The IPP is probably a bit hot as well at 55.5% currently. But honestly, Hronik, and one of the reasons I was fairly excited about his prospects, I mean, relatively excited as you can be for a defenseman. No one was expecting to get top power play usage and hasn't so far. Was because he has typically been a player to factor in on a high percentage of his team's offense. You look back at his years with Detroit, his IPP numbers for the full seasons there, 56%, 48%, 54%, 49%, 47%. So it's not like this 55% this year so far is totally out of the norm. I would expect it to come down just because obviously Quinn Hughes is on the ice when he is, and so you expect a lot more offense to run through Quinn Hughes, and so Hronik will probably end up getting a few less of these assists as the season wears on, and that will obviously drive down things overall. And I do expect the Canucks as a team to not shoot almost 15% when he's on the ice.
Nope. They're going to shoot higher. All right, Kuzis hasn't started cooking yet. All right, just wait. That shot percentage is going to go way
Bench
high.
Kuzi's going to come back and rectify all the wrongs.
He's back, baby. He's got to let his hair grow back out. That's the problem.
But yeah, regardless, I think Hronik, I can see 50-55 probably as a reasonable output. Just the sheer amount of minutes he's getting on a team that can score. I see that as reasonable. And you still have that contingent upside, right? He's the clear next man up if there ever was a Quinn Hughes injury. And if that happens, then Hronik has one of the highest upsides for point production across the whole league. So you like that about Hronik, and you're just happy with what he's given you at the moment. If you want to sell high on him, I don't mind that. If somebody's just totally believing at this point, the longer this goes on, the easier and easier it is to sell somebody that this is just the way it's going to be all season long. So if somebody is buying in on that, then maybe you can sell high on Hronik. Otherwise, I'm kind of just content to take the kind of unexpected production. You definitely didn't have to pay up to have Hronik on your teams this year. So, all right, let's keep it rolling. Let's talk about Mikael Granlund, who also, once again, had another good game tonight. He's up to 7 points in his last 5 games with a couple of goals there, nearly 22 minutes a night, 75th in shots per 60. So it's not like he's just totally running on a shooting percentage bender here. 295th in Corsi 4 per 60 and 142nd in scoring chances 4 per 60. That's more like the Sharks environment that we know and love. But on the season now, pacing for just 9 goals, but 50 points. 69% IPP, which is nice. 5.4% shooting percentage. 10.1% on ice shooting percentage. 50 points pace rest of season, Blake. Are we okay with assigning that to any Shark not named Thomas Hertl at this point?
I mean, not comfortably, no, but I'm happy for the Sharks. I feel like even tonight, right? They were playing one of the best teams in the league. That's the Rangers, and they almost made a comeback, right? It was they ended up 6-5, losing 6-5, but they've been putting some goals in the net, right? Yeah, they're not a good team, right? Their defense is terrible. Like they got Mackenzie Blackwood, but he's the last man standing out there. He's basically on an island, right? And they're just pelting pucks at him. So I like this player. I think a lot of fantasy managers, they'll stay away from teams like San Jose, right? Because of what we said, right? There's not a good chance that these guys are going to season long, really get a lot of points. But there's lots of times where San Jose has a good streaming schedule or a good, section of games. And I'd absolutely be interested in Granlund. Like, look at this ice time. This is insane. Like, he's just under 22 minutes in the last 5 games where he's got 7 points. 22 minutes for anybody. Like, put Connor Brown out there for 22 minutes. Let's see what happens. But the truth is, Granlund's actually scored more historically than players like Connor Brown, right? So I think, I am low-key interested, especially if San Jose has a good streaming week, right? Like I picked up Zetterlund in a league. I have Hurdle in one league as well. I think there's some options there. I picked up Addison too. Sorry, Nate. Did jack squat, buddy. Oh, man.
Shocking.
Yeah. I just keep going to the well. I don't know. I'll never learn my lesson. But I think I read some article on Kalen Addison when he first was going into Minnesota, and that just stuck in my brain. Like, oh, this guy's going to be really good. Okay, sweet. Like, don't even care about what I'm looking at on the ice. Like, just... But anyways, Granlund, yes, I'm interested. 50-point pace. I'd be surprised. 40 to 50, sure. I think 50 is going to be ceiling for Granlund.
Fair enough. All right, let's roll on. One more here in the hot shots. Dawson Mercer, 3 goals, 6 points in his last 5 games. A guy that we talked about a lot as one of the biggest snoozers of the early season. Could not find a way to get on the score sheet whatsoever. We were talking about him alongside Barrett Hayton in the early going as the 2 guys that were the most puzzling to open the season, averaging just under 18 minutes a game. Still, the underlying metrics here are not kind. 269th in shots per 60, 255th in individual scoring chances, 4 per 60. Corsi 4 per 60, 134th. Scoring chances 4 per 60, 137th. Now on a 22-goal, 37-point pace is Mercer. Obviously, Heischer was out. Hughes was out. Now everybody healthy. Mercer is on a line with Curtis Lazar and Alexander Holtz in the last game. Obviously that's not a great spot for offense. Also on the second power play unit there. What are you thinking here, Blake? Do we have any interest in Dawson Mercer? I think at this point he's pretty clearly still just a streamer, but are you still holding out hope that he could hit kind of the heights we were hoping that he might be able to?
I wasn't ever super excited on this player. Like with what they had in New Jersey, I just didn't see how they were going to get him the minutes that he needs, right? And he has been moonlighting on the top 6 there. Like, I think he did spend time in the last game there playing with Jack Hughes and Tyler Toffoli. So, I mean, if he's going to get that deployment, sure, that's excellent. I think he's absolutely, could be a streamer with benefits, maybe a guy you hold if he can keep that deployment, but I don't see how he's going to be able to keep that deployment. Like, they're not going to keep Timo Meier playing with Michael McLeod and Alexander Holtz, right? And I think Meier did go back up to that line at one point. So it's just nothing that I'm super excited about. And the metrics don't really back it up. Like, I was much more excited about Mercer when Timo Meier was injured, right? Because he was kind of a lock in that top 6, right? And I think, some of these points were during that time, right? Or the increase in play, right? And the increase in production, but we'll see. It's not a player I'm excited about. He's a streamer, possibly a streamer with benefits when Jersey has a good schedule. Book it.
All right. Well, before we get into the have-nots, I'm going to take a minute here and tell you you should be checking out Mark Barber's daily summaries over on the Apples and Ginos website, applesandginos.com. He's been posting those every single day. He's currently in Europe and still posting those. An absolute legend. So make sure you're honoring his work by clicking on his links. You can find that obviously at the site, or you can follow him at 18 Skaters on Twitter and catch his uploads. He posts it every single day like clockwork, and it's just a great way to catch up on the events of the previous day and find out who had the biggest, most noteworthy fantasy performances. If you're here and you want to talk more fantasy hockey, you can jump in the Apples and Genos Discord server. We've got a ton of people in there talking fantasy hockey all day and all night, every single day of the week. So definitely get your biscuits and your buns in there if you want to talk about fantasy hockey more than you already do, and you want to annoy more people online than you do the people in your real life, which is how I think all of us started with this. So
that tracks. Yeah.
yeah. And if you need some help with your fantasy teams making some crucial decisions, then the Apples and Geos Patreon is a great way to get some advice from yours truly on how exactly to take your team to the next level. You can check that out. All these links in the show description. While you're here, give us a like, subscribe if you're on YouTube, if you're listening on a podcast app, if you can give us a rating or review there, it really does help. I've got another review that I haven't read yet that I'm going to throw in here. This is from Kelvin_VW. He says, best in the biz. These guys know their fantasy hockey and are very entertaining to listen to. Solid advice, great foresight into current fantasy hockey situations. 10 out of 10 would subscribe and follow. Thank you for that, Kelvin. Appreciate you so much. If you can get a similar review in, I definitely will read it out on the air here. So thanks to all those who have done it so far. We see you and we appreciate you.
We never read the bad ones though, right, Nate? We don't do that.
Oh, I read them and I laugh quite heartily at most of them. So
there's some amazing bad ones. Yeah. You know what we'd like though? If you want to give a bad review, still leave 5 stars, but just go nuts. You know what I mean? just get real personal, get down and dirty. But the 5 stars is kind of, well, that would really help us out. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. All right, Blake, are you ready for some have-nots?
I am, but I wanted to just quickly mention, did you see in the Discord that guy, he put take a gander at Evander into like an AI program, like making songs, and it created this pop song that about taking a gander at Evander Kane. That's like one of the best things I've ever seen. Our listeners are beautiful human beings. And then the guy sent me the MP3. So keep a lookout on Cream of the Crop. I'm going to be debuting that song right on our own podcast here on the podcast feed here at Apples and Genos Book It.
Amazing. We love to see it. Yeah, we've got some great people in the Discord server. That's for damn sure. All right. I have nots. Starting it off with Travis Sanheim, 0 points in his last 5 games. Really seems like the shine has worn off here with Sanheim. It was really nice while it was running and everything was running perfectly, but he is off the top power play at this point. That's been handed over to Cam York. I do have interest in Cam York, but my interest in Travis Sanheim is quickly waning. Still 36th in shots per 60 and skating 25.5 minutes through these last 5 games. So that part is nice, but I think the 55-point pace that he's currently on, we can kiss that goodbye unless he does find his way back to the top power play. What's your feeling on that, Blake? How are you feeling? How solidified can we feel with anybody on the top power play there for the rest of the season?
I don't know. I mean, Torts is getting torts, right? We've talked about it at length. This was a nice story early in the scene. This guy was a league winner. He was supposed to be a league winner. Travis Sanheim. Oh man, waiver wire ad of the year. No. All right. He plays for Philadelphia, everybody. That's why. All right. But so I'm definitely with you. Shine's worn off. I don't expect. I mean, he could get back on power play 1, but it's not going to make a huge difference. Right. He didn't get a bunch of points there, production anyway. He's got 4 power play points, which is almost a career high. He just needs 2 more points, and he's got his career high in power play points. So well done to you, Travis Sanheim. It's a nice player. Right. I'm certainly not talking yang on this man. He's doing some good work, and I love the deployment. So certainly when Philly has a great schedule, like if this guy's out there, he's an ad for sure. It makes sense. But I think he is trending towards a drop. He's not someone you're going to have to hold the rest of season. Yeah. And then the Philly power play, I don't know. Like, how excited are we for Cam York? I'm more excited for Cam York than Sanheim, but I'm not, moving heaven and earth to get this man on my team.
Sure. So just to put a point on that, would you take, if you had Travis Sanheim, are you dropping him for Cam York, assuming Cam York is the best option out there?
What kind of minutes is York getting? If he's getting over 20 minutes.
Top line with Sanheim at even strength.
Bang. I'm taking York. Yeah, get Sanheim the hell out of my sight. I want the power play guy. I mean, he's also, plus minus is not really a great thing, but this guy's -9 in the last 3 games. Like that's when I look at plus minus when it starts to become extreme. You know what I mean? Like when it's really a trend and you're like, okay, that's something to at least just a piece of the puzzle. You're like, all right, he's on for a lot of goals against. Yeah. So it's, I don't know, he's minus 11 in the last 5. Jeez, buddy. That's, you got to shore that up. But I don't know. Philly's been playing like crap anyway. But yeah, I'm taking York there.
All right. I would totally agree, to be honest with you. I would drop Sanheim. I mean, I don't think anybody's going to go out and look at his numbers
Yeah.
the last little bit and be like, oh, I got to add this guy, not
Gotta
on the
get him.
top power play and not doing anything right now. So I think, if they did go back to Sanheim, you could probably just pick him back up if he does go back to power play 1. So I just chase the power play 1 unless there's a better option out there. I don't know if you'd consider these better options, but there's a couple of defensemen in Ottawa who are also putting up a lot of zeros these days. Jake Sanderson, Jacob Chychrun, both 0 points in their last 5 games. Sanderson getting more minutes, almost 24 minutes a night. Jacob Chychrun almost 22. Chychrun has better underlying metrics, 52nd in shots per 60 to Sanderson's 100. Pretty similar in Corsi 4 per 60, 74th for Sanderson, 84th for Chychrun. Neither of those are great numbers, though. Like, none of these are what we expect from Ottawa. I really do feel like this is a situation where we're looking at a coaching change. Like, people have been calling for it on Twitter for a long time. I mean, Twitter's obviously probably the first place that is calling for a coaching change in most cases, but I'm starting to think that this is probably a coaching problem. Like, you have to think, like, they have Sanderson, they have Chychrun, Shabbat now back in the fold. Like, that's enough defensemen in my mind that you should be able to piece together what you're doing defensively. And the Senators have just never been able to do that under DJ Smith. And I do start to think that some of this 5v5, like Senators in the last couple of weeks here are 23rd in scoring chance for percentage. It's just never been good under DJ Smith. And I do wonder what it would look like under someone else. Obviously, the kind of catch-22 there is if someone else does come in, do they kind of come in with a totally revamped defensive system and they play a trap or something, and now all of a sudden nobody's scoring any points? What do we think about this? How are we ranking these two defensemen rest of season just for points production?
Yeah, for me, it's always going to be Chychrun over Sanderson just because of the metrics. But I mean, Chychrun has a way clearer path to goals, and he's done it historically, right? I mean, obviously Sanderson doesn't have a lot of time in the league, but I mean, Chychrun has legit 20 goal upside as a defenseman. And I mean, he needs a lot of things to go right, obviously, and get back on power play 1 is what he definitely needs. They're rolling with Thomas Chabot there now. The guy comes back from injury and just boots these 2 men to power play 2. Which is okay, I guess. I'm a fan of Thomas Chabot as well, but he's not Jacob Chychrun. Like this is the guy that should be on power play 1. We talked about this in the preseason, but yeah, I mean, we're talking about DJ Smith and some of the kind of the things that he does that are a bit head scratchers, right? So Ottawa, yeah, like you said, they're so mid on pretty much every level, mid to like below mid. Like just on the season and pretty much every metric, and it doesn't make any sense. So I think if they did a coaching change, I couldn't see them bringing in a real like hard ass defensive coach. Like, sure, get these guys to play defense properly, but when you have so many offensive players, like you got to create an environment for them to succeed, right? Like their top 6 is loaded. It's freaking loaded. And their top 3 defensemen are studs. Like I love Jake Sanderson. I think this guy's going to be a great player in this league. In terms of fantasy, like I think category leagues, he's going to be a lot more valuable because he's really good at blocking. Right. And there's a chance he gets back on power play 1, but it's been a frustrating season for Ottawa. They did have a nice little game there. They shut out the Kraken the last game. So that's kind of a nice start, but yeah, it's been rough for fantasy. I've got lots of Stützle shares. I have Sanderson in a couple spots. I have Chychrun in almost every spot. I picked him up everywhere because he was available at value to me in draft season. So I'm holding Chychrun for sure. I think Sanderson's trending towards a drop to me, or you can drop him for sure if you need to pick somebody up, but I'm not dropping Chychrun.
Yep. I feel almost identically, to be quite honest. I think Sanderson is probably a guy who's going to skate into some points, but when he's not on the top power play, it's really uninteresting to me because he doesn't provide a ton of the other stuff we like for fantasy purposes. Chychrun is at least going to have that baseline no matter what power play unit he's on. Yep. And so you can roster him when he's not feeling it, but we've also seen him produce from second power play units before. And be pretty good. Like, he's still on a 22 goal pace for the season. He's 23rd amongst all defensemen in shots per 60 on the season. I think Jacob Chikrin is just somebody who's always going to have some value no matter what really his deployment is. Let's talk about a couple of other guys from Ottawa who are also been kind of trending downward, or at least not scoring. Claude Giroux here, 1 goal his last 5 games. That's something you don't see from Giroux. Has been the epitome of consistency for much of his career. Josh Norris, just 1 assist in his last 5 games. Both these guys getting a ton of minutes. Giroux averaging over 21 minutes a night. Norris averaging just under 20 minutes a night over these last 5 games here. Giroux's his individual numbers are much worse, 285th in shots per 60, 271st in individual scoring chances for per 60, where Norris is at 78th in shots per 60 and 192nd in individual scoring chances for per 60. Norris slightly better as well in the on-ice numbers, 32nd in Corsi for per 60 to 54th for Giroux, 100th in scoring chances for per 60 to 159th for Giroux. Talk to me about these two, Blake. Who would you take rest of season? Who are you more excited for at this moment?
That's a good question. I think I'm interested in Norris at the moment more than I am Giroux, because Giroux's been kicked down to power play 2. Like, that's a kind of a cheesy way to choose between these two. But also, like you said, Norris has some better underlying metrics, so I definitely trust those metrics. He does have better metrics on the season too. So yeah, I like Giroux as a player. I always have. And I sort of like his attitude there in Ottawa. I've seen a couple interviews with him where, the Senators have been playing poorly. They've had some bad stretches, and he's like, just hold steady, boys. Like, it's going to be fine. Like, he seems to be a calming presence there. He's been there before. He's been on successful teams. So I'm a big fan of the player, but in terms of fantasy, I like Norris a little better, but yeah, they've just had a really bad stretch. They haven't been putting points on the board, and I like the deployment for both players. Like, Claude Giroux gets some shorthanded time, so that's bolstering his numbers. He's still getting over 20 minutes a night. So I love that. That's one thing that he has over Norris. Like, Norris is not playing 20 minutes a night, although he did in the second to last game, as I just say that. But yeah, I think I'm taking Norris there, but it doesn't feel good, right? Like, these are both players that I think if Ottawa has a bad week, like, I think you can drop him and not worry about it too much. Like, I dropped Norris in a league recently, and yeah, I was like, this doesn't feel good, because I was so excited that I got him, because I picked him up before he got back in, like right before he got back in, and then he sort of had a nice start, and I was like, okay, this is going to be a rest of season player on my team, and it just hasn't really worked out that way. So I don't know. Where are you at with these two players?
Yeah, I'm interested in both, just for the deployment and the expectation that things will get better from this point. I think Norris is really trending in a good direction now. Probably needs a few goals to go in to really bolster his confidence, but they haven't wavered from taking him off the top power play, which is really good to see. I still think he can be a 30-plus goal scorer and probably 65-plus point scorer. Giroux can, obviously, we've seen it, proof positive there in Ottawa. He can be 70-plus point scorer. So I think obviously Giroux has right wing eligibility and Norris is center only. So if that matters to you, then obviously take Giroux. But I think Norris has the higher goal scoring potential, and that's going to mean more for a lot more people. So just on that basis, I might take Norris. And I'm cautiously optimistic, I would say, based on what we're seeing here in the last little bit from Josh Norris, that he is starting to turn some of these things around.
Yeah, one thing about Ottawa too, Nate, sorry to interrupt you there.
Yeah.
They've played the lowest game total in the league, right? They've only played 19 games. So if you're just looking at their output on the season, like, that kind of looks bad too. And it probably feels bad if you're holding some of these Ottawa players on your team. You're like, oh, these guys are bringing me nothing, right? Well, it's because they haven't played a lot of games. They played the least amount of games in the league. So just something to keep an eye on, right? And if you're feeling kind of froggy about your Ottawa Senators, like, just remember they've only played 19 games, right? That's the lowest in the league. So there's going to have a stretch where they have some good weeks coming up here.
For sure. All right, let's roll on and talk about Troy Terry. Just 1 assist in his last 5 games. Been getting lots of messages about Terry, averaging just under 18 minutes time on ice in these last 5 games here. But the upside of that is the last couple games here, he's been up over 20 minutes. And in both of those games, he's shot 4 or 5 shots. So that part is looking up. 92nd in shots per 60 over the last 5 games total. 84th in Corsi 4 per 60. 79th in scoring chances 4 per 60. Those are both numbers that are trending way up from where he was at just a week ago at this point. Alex Killorn is actually looking pretty solid. His line mate there. Leo Carlsson has been looking really, really solid when he's been playing, at least. So we had McTavish go down in this game, as we mentioned in the news and notes section, and it really turned into like a top line show there. They skated the top line there 13 minutes, 18 seconds. Next highest line was 8 minutes and 12 seconds. So it was a really top line heavy lean there. And so that's got me a little bit excited that they might just continue to lean heavily on Terry, and that it looks like some of the underlying metrics are starting to come around. And we might be looking at a situation in which Troy Terry is going to be valuable once again for fantasy purposes. Now, is this moment right here the exact moment that I'd go out and add him? I don't know. You know, they've got a fairly mid schedule here. They play on Tuesday and Sunday, which are 8 games played on both of those nights, so you can definitely fit him in for there. But then also on the Thursday, which you're not probably going to fit Terry in for if he's been dropped in your league. So for this week, it's kind of okay, but not great. The following week, though, they play 3 games, 3 off nights. So that you're once again getting the off night benefit from the Anaheim stream there. So Terry is definitely someone I'm interested in. Maybe he doesn't fit into your plans for this week, but if you're looking for someone that may turn into a long-term hold, then I think Terry can be that guy. He's had enough of a run of games over the last couple of seasons where he's proven that he is a good enough player to maintain a high level of play and to maintain a 70-plus point pace. I think that Troy Terry can be that once again this season. It's going to be a little tougher with some of these injuries coming through here. Zegras obviously out now. McTavish in doubt with this upper body injury we don't know much about yet. But I believe in the talent here with Troy Terry, and with the underlying metrics starting to turn around, hopefully, just a 2-game sample of that at this point, but hopefully that's a sign of more things to come. I am cautiously optimistic. Your thoughts, Blake?
Yeah, I mean, maybe do people hate when we agree on everything? I don't know. I wish I wish I could really just fight you on something, but no, I agree exactly with what you said. I'm optimistic with Terry. This is a buy low, right? Like last 5 games, this guy's IPP is 20%. He's shooting 0%. His on ice shooting percentage is 9.1. That's terrible, right? Like that's going to go up. Like how much it goes up is the question, right? But that's going to go up. He's not going to continue this on. And as much as it sucks for Anaheim that Mason McTavish is out, Zegras, all that, like I think that benefits Troy Terry, at least in terms of his ice time, right? Like you said, they're going to roll him out there. We need Leo Carlsson to play some games. Like they need to staple those two together. That's a duo. They play well together. Leo Carlsson has looked really good. And haven't you heard, Nate? They're going to ramp him up to 3 games per week now. Oh, ooh. It's like Christmas came early. We get, you know, a player that signed a contract actually going to play games. Dang. Thank you, Pat Verbeek. All right. Oh God. But I love Troy Terry. I dropped him in a league and it didn't feel good because I was excited. I had him. I got him at what I thought was crazy value, but he just hasn't been doing what I need him to do. But I'm keeping my eye. If Troy Terry's on your waivers, you got to keep an eye on this man and be ready to pounce, because I do think he should be on a roster season long, right? But it's a rough stretch here. But like you said, things are trending upwards mildly, and I'm cautiously optimistic as well.
All right. Let's close it out with a couple of defensemen to compare and contrast. Morgan Rielly has just 1 assist in his last 5 games, and Vince Dunn has the same stat line. Rielly playing a ton of minutes. The Leafs have played a ton of overtime the last little bit, so that's definitely contributing to this. But Rielly's averaging over 26.5 minutes time on ice in the last 5 games. Vince Dunn up over 23 minutes average time on ice, as he usually is. Definitely Vince Dunn has Rielly on the advanced stats here. 77th in shots per 60 to Rielly's 118th. 16th in individual scoring chances 4 per 60 to Rielly's 84th. 20th in Corsi 4 per 60, Rielly at 60. 46 in scoring chances 4 per 60 to Rielly's very nice 69. So your thoughts here, Blake? Yeah, lay it out for me on the season. Like, these guys have actually very similar point paces. 11 goals, 60 points for Rielly, 10 goals, 62 points for Dunn. What do we think on these two players? Who's going to end the season with the most points?
Ooh, another death match. Oh my God. Oh man. I just can't find it in myself to get excited about Vince Dunn. I thought he overachieved massively last season. And that said, he's still pacing for around the same amount of points. So, and that's including a bad 5-game stretch right here. So I can't talk any yang on this man really, but I just don't feel like what he's doing is completely sustainable. And I don't like the offensive environment there in Seattle. I like the deployments up in the air. Yeah, he's getting like the bulk of the power play deployment, which is really nice. But that bulk is 56.9%, right? That's his power play share, which is, it's just, that's not enough. I want to see 70%, damn it, for this legend. So that's not happening. That said, I mean, he's having a great season so far. To me, I'm surprised that Riley is not doing better than he is. Now, especially now that the Klingon, John Klingberg, is injured. Like, it's this guy's kitchen here in the power play, and it hasn't really equaled any production, which, again, is a surprise. Like, last 5 games, 0 power play points. He's skating out there with the big boys. I mean, damn, what are you seeing out there? Like, first off, I would take Morgan Riley over Vince Dunn. I'd be more excited about Riley. Like, look at the deployment. Yeah, I know overtime's in there, but I remember what this guy did in the playoffs last year too. And he was on another level. Like, he looked amazing. So just knowing that that's a type of player that we have here in Morgan Riley, and now he has power play 1 locked down. I feel like this is almost a little bit of a buy low situation if you don't look at like his 60-point pace that he's on, right? But last 5 games, yeah, he's not really doing too much, right? So I'd be interested in trying to acquire Morgan Riley. Vince Dunn, I don't know. I'm just, I don't know what it is about Vince Dunn. I don't know. Where are you at with these 2 players?
Yeah, I would lean Riley here. Vince Dunn is the more interesting player. I think we know what Riley can and has been in the past, and when given the top power play there and skating these kind of minutes in Toronto, I think we kind of can pretty easily and confidently extrapolate what we expect out of Riley. Something in this kind of like 10 goal, 55 to 60 point range feels pretty solid for Riley in this setup. But for Vince Dunn, it is a little harder. Obviously, had the big breakout last year. Minutes are almost identical to last year. The IPP is much higher this year, 59% versus 46% last year. Last year, it was more a function of the shooting percentage. He shot 9.3% versus 6.1% so far this year. On ice shooting percentage was 13.1% last year and at 10.3% this year, which feels a lot more reasonable to me. So I kind of feel like we're probably going to get a situation where Dunn's IPP falls back down into the 45 to 50% range from this 59. And then you get the on ice shooting percentage probably staying somewhere around where it is at. And then as a result, you end up with Dunn probably in a 50 to 55 point range. So I think Riley gets the edge there for me personally. I don't think either of these guys are likely to go 65 plus on the season.
Yeah.
I think most likely scenario for both of them is to be a titch under 60 points on the season, but I would take Riley in a head-to-head streamer deathmatch if we were to have one. Speaking of which, let's move on to the head-to-head streamer deathmatch, Blake. Last week, I don't really want to talk about it, but I suppose we have to because accountability and all that kind of stuff. You took Jake DeBrusk. He finished with 14.25, a couple points. I took Kirill Marchenko, and my boy let me down, just 10.5, a couple points. Blake, talk about it, gloat over it, do your thing. This is your time.
It's starting to get a little bit uncomfortable. You know what I mean? It's 6-1, everyone. All right, we're running out of weeks, Nate. Okay. Now you have to start taking it seriously. I think, are you just lobbing it up for me? Is that what you're doing? Are you doing some kind of reverse psychology where you're kind of rope-a-doping me? Is that sort of the situation that's going on here, Nate?
That's absolutely, yeah. I will grasp at any straws that are available for my performance so far in the head-to-head streamer deathmatch. But anyway, that's all we've got for this episode. Hopefully it brought you some value. Hope you got a little bit better at fantasy hockey today. All the advanced stats you heard today came from Natural Stat Trick, which is a terrific free resource. Many thanks to the band. They're there for supplying music for the podcast. Be sure to check out their Spotify as well. That's it, folks. Much love.